Wisconsin State Senator Romaine Quinn is back for our monthly chat today, Thursday, November 20th, 2025. It's been a busy week in Madison, and Romaine is here to give us updates on all that has already happened and, of course, what is next in the Wisconsin legislature. But first, I'm Ben Dryden, and you're watching DrydenWire Live, presented by Americans for Prosperity Wisconsin. AFP Wisconsin works to reignite the American dream and break down government barriers that hold us back from our full potential. Visit afpwisconsin.com and join AFP to fight for more freedom for all Wisconsinites. With that, we welcome back on the show our guest who usually joins us on the last Thursday of every month, but next Thursday being Thanksgiving, we moved up a week. Wisconsin's 25th District Senator Romaine Quinn. Romaine, good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going?
It's going good. It's raining outside, but it's a beautiful day inside.
Yeah. When do I have to change this banner? I have Wisconsin 25th District Senator. So you're running in the 23rd because of the whatever.
So I am the senator for the 25th until the inauguration after the next election.
Okay.
So you don't have to touch that for a while. And that's assuming I don't get my butt kicked. So you may never have to change it.
Yeah.
You never know.
I just put in former Wisconsin 25th District Senator.
There you go. Right. There you go.
So it sounds like a lot's been going on down in Madison this week. You put out a press release yesterday, and we published it. I think it was actually the day before, but we didn't publish it until yesterday morning. Quinn votes to reverse Evers' 400-year property tax increase. There's a few things in there, but just the very first paragraph of your press release says, today in a session of the state Senate, Senator Romaine Quinn voted to protect Wisconsin taxpayers from Governor Evers' 400-year property tax increase, ensure abuse of children is reported to authorities, and bring clarity to the definition of abortion in state law. So there's three things to kind of unpack there. Let's start with the first one, 400-year property tax increase. This is a reversal. Is it just that, right? It's just we're just going to make it like it didn't happen.
Absolutely. So if you remember last budget, Ben, we negotiated with the governor, with Democrats, to come up with a package of spending that both sides could swallow. And so we do that every budget, right? We check our receipts, we look at our expenses, we see what's left over, and then we make our investments. How much can we invest in schools, in roads, in bridges, hospitals, infrastructure? You pick the topic, right?
Yep.
And so we had this deal struck, and then that's when the governor went and said, I'm going to use my line item veto pen to remove a hyphen. So instead of saying schools get $325 per pupil for the 2023-24 budget, or it's 24 to 25 budget, I'm gonna knock the hyphen out and put it for the next 400 years.
Yeah.
And so that's obviously a problem. Two things. In my mind, it's not constitutional. It's never been done. Governors are allowed to reduce spending or eliminate things, but to lock in spending is a whole new level that we've a road we've never gone down before. And of course, his buddies on the Supreme Court solidified that decision. So what can we do? And the only thing the legislature can do is try to put forward legislation that repeals that mistake. I can probably guess, if you were a betting man, we might talk about sports betting today, that bill is going to get vetoed again. The frustrating part, Ben, is not just the optics of it. I think the average person is saying, for the next 400 years, like, what? I mean, come on, schools are going to look radically different in the next 400 years. And we can talk about how much funding should schools have or shouldn't they have. And we've talked about this on the show, the complexities of school funding. What happens if I put money in the formula or in a categorical aid? How does that impact Shell Lake versus Milwaukee, right? But the point is, this in perpetuity, $325 per pupil, but actually I think makes the problem worse, because you take a Shell Lake. Shell Lake has had issues as of recently, budgetary problems. I think they spend around just under $12,000 a student. I think over $11,000. Madison spends almost $15,000 a kid. Milwaukee is over $14,000 a kid. So for the next 400 years, they all get the same amount, the same increases forever and ever, right? So there are school districts that probably should not be getting $325 per kid increase every single year, the same rate as our low spenders. That's just not fair. It exacerbates the inequities in our funding formula. And so it's irresponsible. In my mind, it was unconstitutional. And so we voted to fix that on the Senate floor yesterday.
It's interesting. My Republican friends, my Democrat friends, and even a few independent friends, when this all happened, and I asked them, what are your thoughts about it in terms of how it got done with the line item veto, et cetera. And every single one of them did not like it. Right? It didn't matter what side they're like, nope, don't like that at all. However, my Democrat friends, of course, because education is under the education umbrella, they're like, yeah, but hey, we like it, even though we don't like how it was done. Let me ask you this, though. You just said that this is going to get vetoed, right? What would it take for this to get reversed? And by that, I mean, I can't imagine a Democrat ever, even if they realize or if it comes to fruition and they look at this later on, whether it's in a month or in 3 years, whatever, that they see, man, actually, this isn't great for some of the reasons that you just mentioned. Like, this isn't actually ideal for the next 400 years. But a Democrat, I can't imagine that they would be able to vote for this, to repeal this at any point, because it's got education attached to it, and you can't do that. So would it take, like, even if like a governor gets in, let's say a Tom Tiffany, right? But one of the chambers, let's say it's the Senate that now is Democrat controlled, it's not going to pass the Senate, though. Like, will this ever actually get done?
Well, I think that's a good question, Ben. I don't know. I think there needs to be a new administration. Obviously, taxpayers have a shot at that this next biennium. We could, so like this last budget, we could have passed a budget that said, so not to get into the weeds on this, so this raises the revenue limit a school district is allowed to spend. So it would be different if this was just a per pupil increase, right? So the state, for example,
by the way, real quick, I think a lot of people think that.
What's that?
That it's just a per pupil increase.
So it is, but it's funded different. So we've got the general formula, right? Schools can spend a certain amount, 11,000, 15,000, whatever your cap is. Mm-hmm. And we get to that amount through a mixture of state aid and property taxes. Outside of this formula, the state offers other monies, right? Special education funding, high cost transportation, sparsity aid, and then we do a per pupil. And so per pupil is fully funded by the state. When you raise the revenue limit, it's a mixture of state aid and property taxes. And when the state does not keep piling money into the formula and you allow that number to go up, it's 100% on the local property taxpayers. So that's the frustrating part. It's not like the governor locked in the state in a per pupil amount forever going up. It's the revenue limit amount. And so if the state does not meet its commitment or find $800 million every budget for the next 400 years, it will fall solely on property taxpayers. And it doesn't matter if we have another pandemic and schools are flush with federal COVID cash. It doesn't matter what referendum they just passed. And none of that matters. It doesn't take into account the needs 10 years out, or if the school even exists 10 years out. It's just you get it for the next 400 years. And it just doesn't we don't do that with anything, Ben, right? Mm-hmm. So it just doesn't make any sense. But to your point, I think it's going to be tough. I think it's doable. I think people are going to get their property tax bills this year. I'm already hearing it, even last year, now this year. So this December, when you get your bill, or January, will be the first year felt of the impact of this veto. And so get your bill and let me know how you feel about that. And then we'll see if we can get anything changed.
Yeah. I wonder, if I was in your spot, like, would I sign on to this? Would I vote for something like this? Well, wait a minute. If I ran, I'd run as independent. But then again, I wouldn't win if I ran as independent. But let's assume for a moment I did. And do independents, do they get to pick who they caucus with? Because there's not like a caucus for independents. Do they get to pick Republican or Democrat? Can they go to both? How does that work?
You could start the DrydenWire caucus. A lot of Republicans would go to that, I think, and Democrats. But no, so it's a privilege to be in the caucus. Yeah. So the Republicans or Democrats would have to vote to let you in.
Okay.
Just like we can kick our own members out.
Oh, nice.
Like if you're whatever, like, see ya.
Yeah.
Just because you're an elected Republican doesn't mean you get to get in the room.
Well, if I had a choice, if I was an independent, I would probably just want to caucus with whoever has the majority. Because what's the point of being the minority? I mean, it's a pretty easy game, right? To do is just rail on the majority, anything they do. Yeah, I think I would probably vote for this as well, to repeal it with a caveat. What's the plan?
Sure.
Is there one? And it doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be a part of this bill, because this should be just simply let's repeal it. But I would like to know that our caucus and our legislature, like, okay, now we can actually look at this and how we should do it the right way. So if that
Sure.
was attached to it, I think I would.
And I would say we do plan every 2 years, because we can't plan schools outside of the rest of the state's needs, right?
Yeah.
K through 12 is important. It's the largest line item in the budget. But if all of a sudden corrections goes through the roof, do you just not pay
Right.
prison staff? So there's all these
It
issues.
limits your
in the way.
options. Yeah.
Everybody, right?
Kind of ties you down. The next one that you had put, again, this was in your press release yesterday that we published. You had stated that you were signed on to ensure abuse of children is reported to authorities. What is that about?
So we had a very sad example a couple years back of a young child named Zoe Schaefer in Hayward, born with cerebral palsy, unable to speak, unable to move without help. And she passed away, and the autopsy confirmed that she had a blood alcohol content level of 0.57. So how does that happen to a 4-year-old child? She was fed through a feeding tube. And so immediately it was suspected that her caregivers had something to do with it. Turns out her mom's boyfriend pled guilty. I don't know what charges he got, but I believe there's a special place in hell for people who feed alcohol through a child's feeding tube. But that's something he gets to figure out with his maker someday. But the point is, doctors, school officials, and other medical providers had been reporting abuse of this child from other instances before this happened. And these instances were screened out by CPS, and law enforcement was never told. So law enforcement was never able to do investigation because no one ever told them there was suspected abuse going on to this child. And so for the last 25 years, the state has required CPS to report within the first 12 hours any cases of child sexual abuse, child sex trafficking, exposing children to sexual content. There's a whole list of things. But physical abuse isn't on the list. And so I'm flabbergasted why that's not on the list. So all we did was pass a bill that adds physical abuse and neglect to the already existing list of mandatory reporting incidences to police officers. Now, what a sheriff's department or a municipal police department does after that, CPS did their job, right? And I understand that not every call or every accusation or potential issue warrants maybe a full-on police investigation. But I think when it comes to children, especially children that can't speak for themselves, we have to overturn every rock to make sure that something's not going on. And so, not gonna lie, Ben, I was floored. It was a completely partisan vote.
What?
Not one of my Democratic colleagues voted with me yesterday because
why?
They argued on the floor, which was a joke, my colleague from Milwaukee, that this might work in rural areas. But Milwaukee is already understaffed and we're overwhelmed, and it would take us away from more important cases or more egregious examples. So I'm like, what is more egregious than the physical abuse of a child? And so then as I'm on the floor, we have Google, I'm doing a quick search. Milwaukee per population has more police officers than Eau Claire, Superior, Hayward, or Rice Lake. And so this idea that Milwaukee is more overwhelmed and more understaffed than the rest of the state is completely false. And it took me 5 minutes to prove that. Yet we have a state senator on the floor claiming this and telling her colleagues why we should vote no. And so that part was very frustrating. I'm hoping it gets a bipartisan vote in the assembly. And I don't know why the governor's office wouldn't sign it. The Badger Sheriff's Association and a number of other police organizations do support it. So obviously, if they felt they were going to be overwhelmed, why would they support it? But I was pretty flabbergasted. I couldn't say in committee. It came out of committee 3-2. Never heard from those offices on any tweaks or amendments. Assumed some of this would blow over. We get to the floor, and it's a 18-15 vote, which I was pretty floored on the floor about. So hopefully we can get this done. We called it Zoe's Law. The law failed Zoe. Zoe, I believe, would still be here today if we required CPS and make them mandatory reporters. That's what the bill does too, to actually report physical abuse to law enforcement.
There has to be another reason. And maybe it's political, which I understand. I mean, I don't agree with, but I understand that's just how it works. On why there has to be more to this, right? There has to be more from the other side than just, well, it's going to be tough to do. This one seems like a no-brainer. So there has to be something else. There just does. And is it just a political thing? But then, I mean, even a political thing, why would you vote no on this? Right?
Right. And
so that doesn't make sense either.
I'm looking at senators from Eau Claire, the Baraboo area, the Green Bay area, who are all very much in swing districts. And I'm sitting here scratching my head going, even if you didn't like me or what Republicans, right? How do you vote against this? And by the way, this was not, we do gotcha bills all the time. This was not, I gotcha, and I gotcha bill, right?
Yeah.
We had a case in Hayward, a child's dead. We're going to fix the law. So voters get to ask them in their home districts.
I don't see a win here for anyone that votes against it, politically or just from the actual merits of the bill. I don't see a win there. That's interesting.
So
I would
definitely would have been a yes.
We would have been a yes on that one. Yes, the DrydenWire caucus. We would have been a yes vote. There you go. All right. The third one that you had from your press release yesterday was you put it. Bring clarity to the definition of abortion in state law. Oh, where'd you go? What's happening?
Apparently, I've cracked my computer with my amazing good looks. So
you know what? Why don't you do this? There should be like a hang up button somewhere on there. Why don't you hit the hang up and then just jump back in?
All right.
On your email.
See you later. Have a good day.
Okay. Hopefully that works. I don't know why every once in a while it kind of does that a little bit. My dad says there, hey, there you're back. It will pass when Democrats' family is affected. Stupid reason to not vote. Yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of agree with you, Dad. Like that one, I'm a hard time. But then again, maybe I'm missing something. I didn't actually read the whole bill. Maybe there's something else in there.
Ben, I wrote it. There's no poison.
Oh, okay. You wrote it. I didn't even know that. Oh, my goodness.
Chance Green and I did it together. Obviously, we share Hayward. We shared that constituency. The family was pretty excited that we were doing something about it. We got a lot of communication from them. So hopefully we can get this across the finish line and help them get a little closure too, knowing that this should never happen to anybody else. So.
So the third one was bring clarity to the definition of abortion in state law. What is that one about? I didn't know we needed clarity.
Yes. So we passed this last session as well. The Assembly did not take it up. I'm hoping they do this time. So I would argue, no matter where you are at on the issue of life, I know many people don't agree with me where I'm at. So whether you think life starts and is worthy of protection at 6 weeks or 12 weeks or 14 or 20 weeks, or nothing up until the moment of birth, wherever you fall on the spectrum, what we need to make very clear is what is not an abortion. So when a woman needs to go in and get care due to an ectopic pregnancy.
What is that?
A pregnancy where that's developing in the fallopian tube that has no chance of life, right?
Got it.
You're developing outside of the womb, and you will never make it to term, and you will severely, potentially, end the life of the mother if you don't treat that. And the only treatment is removing that child, right? And so getting that treatment is not an abortion. Abortion is the intentional ending of a human life. But if you need treatment for something that involves the ending of a pregnancy, which was not your intent matters, that is not an abortion, and we're not going to define that under state statute. So whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, whether our old 94004 ban comes back into place or it's gone forever, it should be very clear to doctors that treatments for miscarriage, ectopic pregnancies, removal of stillborn children, all sorts of those instances, the pro-life community has never, ever sought to criminalize those. We have never, ever sought to ban those. And so I know during my election, there was fear on the ground. What if I need to start cancer treatment and I'm not allowed to because it could impact the child in my womb? How do I make that decision?
Sure.
You should be able to get the treatment because you're not getting that cancer treatment in hopes to end your pregnancy, right? So you're not trying to have an abortion. And so any restrictions, no matter what they are, no matter where you feel about those, don't apply to those instances. And so let's just take that off the table so then we can have a real discussion Again, I believe life starts at conception. I don't think our worth as a human being is defined by how we were conceived or whether my parents could afford me or where they were at in life. None of that matters to me personally, because I think science is very clear on this, but not everyone is with me on that. But where we should be is, like I said, is those instances where women need care. That is not an abortion. And so I'm sick of hearing the ads and the fear mongering that we're going to let women die on the table because they can't get something that they need. And that has just never been the pro-life position. And so that's why we should reflect that in state statutes. Make it crystal clear.
What I like about this one and that last bill that we're just talking about is that it's small things, but like these aren't like a massive changing of how everything works. It's little things that does impact a small percentage of people, but it's a huge impact for that small percentage of people. So I kind of like those because usually we're talking about the huge bills that's going to impact everybody. Like these are like smaller things, but they're important. I'm going to guess that I could see some Democrats probably getting on board with this. I think it's like a little bit bipartisan. How did it go?
I'm glad you're in a good mood this morning, but it was not. It wasn't last time either.
Because
right out of the gate, it's misconstrued as Republicans are just need to stay out of the issue altogether, allow women and their doctor to have unfettered access no matter what the situation is.
But it's still a win for even pro-abortion. It's still a win, right?
Right.
Like if you are pro-choice, this is still a win.
But it takes away the talking point, Ben. That's exactly why. If I'm Planned Parenthood, how do I spend $1 million against a Republican vulnerable state senator using ads that you want women to be able to, pass away because she couldn't get treatment for a miscarriage? I can't run that ad if you pass this bill, frankly. So
it's a political. Okay.
I think so. And the governor's office last time, his spokesperson said it's just Republicans trying to confuse the issue again. I'm like, no, we're actually creating clarity. That's the point. We want to eliminate any confusion. We don't want any doctor in the state at a Catholic hospital, at a different hospital, to think that they can't provide care. And the Catholic OBGYNs came out and said, yeah, these aren't cases of abortion. We've always provided this care. So let's take the ambiguity out of the law. And that's what we're hoping to do.
Well, our caucus, the DrydenWire caucus, I would vote yes for this one because it's another kind of a no-brainer thing. But then again, you got to remember that the DrydenWire caucus apparently is we don't have a lot of pull, and we won't be elected next term no matter what anyway. So
there's a space in Madison for you, Ben.
Okay, all right. You brought up sports betting. I want to talk about that, and then I saw that Wisconsin Assembly passed Republican school consolidation bills, so I think that's going to be heading to the Senate soon. I want to talk about that. We'll do all that in 15 seconds after a word from Spooner Health.
Compassion is at the center of everything we do. It's rooted in who we are and why we're here. It unites us as providers, neighbors, and as a community. Learn more at SpoonerHealth.com.
All right. Online sports betting plan dead till next year was a headline on the MacGyver Institute's website yesterday. So I'd seen the Evers was on Upfront this last Sunday, and that got brought up, and he didn't say that he would sign it. He didn't need to see everything that was a part of it, but he was for it. What was that about, and why is it dead now?
Man, so there's a lot to unpack here. So in Wisconsin, commercial gambling is illegal. It is not legal to gamble in the state of Wisconsin. So it has to take place on reservation land because our tribes are sovereign nations within our borders. And so any gambling of that nature has to be done on the tribes. So the only way for sports betting right now, it's happening online, it's happening illegally. You could have DraftKings on your phone sitting in Spooner making a bet. It's on some server in Singapore. It may not even be through DraftKings, right? You might have this other, more a little bit unscrupulous website that you're participating on, and you better hope you're going to get paid out, right? They've got your credit card information. If you win, you hope you get paid. So the argument is, why don't you bring this in? It can be done in-house right now on tribal land, but they want to be able to open it up. So what the argument is as long as the bet takes place on the server, and the server is located on tribal land, then now it is legal, right? So I'm placing a bet from Spooner. It's going to Potawatomi and Milwaukee, the server, the bet's taking place on the server on tribal land. Therefore, it's legal.
So this,
Now,
just to be clear, so that would be like a DraftKings or a FanDuel. It's not like you're using an app from the tribal nations or that casino or etc. This is like you use it. Like a lot of other states use this or they allow that, but the server is going through them, so that's what makes it technically a part of whatever. For whatever reason, I can't remember why all gambling has to go through the tribe. I can't remember why, but that's what makes it okay if the server was there.
So the nuts and how it would work. So right now you have DraftKings and FanDuel and all of those lobbying very hard against the bill because they do not want to be forced to work with the tribes to offer their services. They would rather see us break the Constitution, pass an amendment, open up gambling, allow them to exist like they do in other states where gambling is not commercially illegal. Obviously, the tribes hate that because they have a monopoly on gambling. Sports betting is growing, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they get some of that play. And their argument is the state benefits because it increases the amount we pay through our compacts. So every tribe has a compact with the state where they give a percentage of their gambling proceeds to the state of Wisconsin, basically in exchange for us keeping kind of gambling banned statewide because voters have approved a constitutional ban on gambling. So we've got two different things here, right? We've got, I think, DraftKings does not want to work with the tribes because they get a bigger cut.
I think it was like 60% is what I saw in that MacGyver Institute story.
I think in other states they get like 90%, but then they're paying state tax. So we're trying to figure that out too, right? So if I'm in Illinois has commercial gambling. They don't have compacts with tribes. It's not limited to tribal territory. How much are they making off of DraftKings paying corporate tax versus how much are we making by forcing DraftKings into a tribal compact and then coming back to us through that compact, right? Sure. And so I don't know the answer to that. And that's why we're waiting. Like, are we leaving more money on the table by continuing to do what we've always done? But on the flip side, we're being threatened that if we break the compacts and we go backwards, the state could owe hundreds of millions of dollars in back pay and damages to the tribes because we opened up the Constitution, we violated our contracts with them, and they would sue us. So I'm trying to get through the nuts and bolts of what's real and what's not. Both sides are inflating, I think. But man, I'm in a weird spot because I enjoy gambling. I enjoy going to the casino now and then, but there's a lot of people who shouldn't be. And I know there's this always Republican argument of live and let live, deal with the consequences. But Ben, who picks up the pieces when people fall apart, whether it's gambling or whatever, right? Their addiction. It's the state. It's you and me. It's the taxpayers, right? Yeah. So when you go put half your check on black in Turtle Lake and then don't pay your rent, don't feed your family, don't pay your taxes, miss a car payment, put more on your credit card, that hurts all of us. It hurts society. And I know our side of the aisle just says, well, that's an individual's right to do that. But man, that doesn't sit well with me. And so whether it's that or whether it's payday lending, you get all these loan sharks, 600% interest. It's usury, right? And yeah, it's a free market. You willingly walked into the door and took out that title loan against your vehicle, and now you owe 5 times and you'll never get out of this cycle. But who pays for that? It's not live and let live when the government always picks up the tab. So I struggle with this because gambling really does actually prey upon the people who are least able to afford it. You're not going to make money when you go in there. There's a reason they exist. They can't pay everybody out. And so I don't know where I'm at, because if we don't pass it, people will continue to online bet, but it'll be on servers that may not be safe. So you could get hacked. You could lose your credit card information. You might win and never get paid because it's on a server in Singapore through some site that's not regulated. And so now the argument is we kind of you have to do this. We don't have an alternative, or it would take 4 years to break open the Constitution and allow for commercial gambling. And so that's where I struggle with it. And that's why I'm like, hold your horses. Why are we ramming this through in a couple of weeks? Like, we need more dialogue. We need to really get our arms around this. Stealing a Dave Armstrong quote. Got to get my arms around this and take our time on it. 'Cause it's a big deal. It is a big deal.
I mean, because if it goes through and you didn't do all your due diligence, I mean, imagine how hard that's going to be. Look at the 400-year veto thing that we were talking about earlier. To then get it back to overturn that, that's nearly impossible. So yeah, that's a good idea. So this is now tabled until next year. Next year, when next year? Like March or January? Because next year is just 6 weeks away. Is it like that soon, or is it like next year, like October, November of next year?
No, it'll be in the spring.
Okay,
which is fine because I think that gives us between now and a January floor date, February floor date, to have some more good discussions. It was moving really fast, so like the anti-lobbyists haven't really got their feet on the ground. It came really quick. But again, to even some of their points, like to DraftKings opposition, well, that's their opposition's self-serving too, right?
Well, 100%, right? Like we don't want to give 60% to them. We want a bigger piece. Duh.
Yeah. So I mean, they're not worried about the guy that's an addict. They're worried about keeping a bigger piece of the pie. So how do we sift through all the interests? And maybe build in more protections. How do we ban advertising to people under 21? It's just, and part of me sits here and goes, yeah, I remember sitting in the bar and my buddy's putting $20 on a team on DraftKings. And then part of me is like, well, who cares, right? Like, who cares?
I tried that about a year ago.
There's more to it.
I was telling, back when Fitzy and I were still doing Positive Tuesday shows, and I downloaded DraftKings, and then I moved money, I connected to my bank account, I put like, it was either $100 or $300, something like that, into DraftKings. I'm like, okay, I'm going to place a bet. And then it says, nope, you can't, you're in Wisconsin. I'm like, well, why don't you tell me that before? So then I had to like reverse everything and cancel and it was a pain. I'm like, I wish I would have known this before. I'm like, I just assumed that we could, I know gambling you have to do with the casino. But
and if we passed this bill, you could have done that.
Right, I know it.
Right. And so I don't even know the mechanics. Like, will it be DraftKings brought to you by the Potawatomi, right? I think it'll have to be a different
right. Yeah. How does that work?
Right. It's got to be run through the tribe. And frankly, I'm not particularly in a mood to do any favors for our tribes based on what we've seen in the Lac de Flambeau with road closures.
Oh, right.
The lack of relationship with the Bad River over these property tax issues. I've tried for 2 years to get a meeting with the Bad River chairman, and they won't return my calls. They don't have to. They're a sovereign nation, right? Well, I don't have to give you access to sports betting either if you want to play that game. So it's like we got to have dialogue and relationships beyond just the governor, right? Yeah. Tribes can't just run to the governor. Now, not every tribe's like that. There's a lot of really good actors who do a really good job with local communities, with what they offer to the state. But there's 11 of them, and they're all different. And you don't get to pick and choose, right? Sure. So lots of conversations need to happen yet.
All right. The next one I saw was Wisconsin Assembly passes Republican school consolidation bills. There was a big one that was in there the consolidation. Actually, walk us through what that is. And it was passed in the Assembly. When does it hit your guys' desk in the Senate? Actually, answer that one first. When is that going to be on when does it come to you guys?
We haven't even had hearings on it yet.
So is this like months away?
Potentially. I haven't worked, I'm vice chair of education. I haven't talked to the Chairman Jagler. He's great in terms of what bills, like if he doesn't like some of them, he doesn't have to hear them, right? They're just dead. Some of them I think he will. My name is on a couple of them because I think it's a conversation we have to have. Now, I'm really torn because I would rather have kids in a smaller school where you can control the culture of that school, even if it means they didn't have access to a couple of opportunities that other kids have, right? Because I think producing a good person sometimes means more than you having an AP credit in advanced math. Sure. And I think when you start jamming kids into larger and larger buildings, it is a different scenario, and it's harder for students and staff to maintain whatever identity or culture that you've tried to grow in your school. On the flip side, there are schools that probably shouldn't exist anymore.
Hold on a second, real quick. So what we're talking about, this consolidation, is this bill would allow schools that you kind of create this apparatus or the resources for them if they do it. I think it's something like in 3 years or something, where if they want to, like a shell-like and a spooner to merge kind of a thing, if that's what they wanted to do, and then there's a way that this bill would allow help to them. So what is the help aspect?
Right. So beyond whether or not schools should do it,
Right.
these bills do a number of things. So one of them, I think, out of the gate, maybe the most important one, Representative Duco and I did together, is putting out an RFP for a in-depth study statewide of every district, taking into account their population, 10-year population projections, what is their debt, what are their facilities, what is their capacity, what are their ages. Do a real deep accounting dive of every aspect of every school, and then come up with a recommendation. Not me, but an independent accountant and an actuarialist and whatever entity can really take this on and get into the meat and potatoes of it and say, here's the lay of the land. Here are the districts that probably shouldn't exist anymore based on a 10-year projection of a lack of students. And where do we go from here? So that's the first step. How do we quantify it? Then the second step is, how do we help schools make the decision on their own if they believe that's best for the community, not forcing them to do it?
Yeah, this isn't a mandate.
Nope. So then you get the incentive piece. So if Spooner and Shell Lake wanted to come together, the state would offer you another $2,000 per student for every kid on top of what you're spending today. So let's say Spooner has 600 kids, Shell Lake has 400 kids. I'm trying to keep the math easy. I'm not a mathematician.
Yep.
And so you got 1,000 kids. You're already spending, you're going to get to spend an average of $12,500 a kid. You're going to get $14,500 per kid.
For how long?
I think it's the initial year. It may be more than 1 year. I got to look at that. That one's, I don't know if that one's not my bill. This rollout has been interesting with the assembly. I love my colleagues, but when they're on a mission, they just want to get it out. We need to get the message out. And I'm like, Can we think about this for a second? So we dealt with this a little bit my first term in the assembly. Shatek Weyerhaeuser and Schwamigan were one of the first two to really consolidate decades. We had something similar where they would get a bump right away and it phased out over 5 years. The bump wasn't that big. And then we raised the final year to make sure they could have that in perpetuity, right? So, because some districts, we've talked about this, right? You're so geographically big, you take on more land mass, you don't have a lot of kids, you'll get a cut in state aid because you have more property value to pay more for your school. And so it's kind of a perverse incentive for our very big rural districts. Now in the Southeast or the Southwest, there's a lot of rural schools, 300, 400, 500 kids, and they're 5 miles apart. So part of the conversation is, do all of them need to exist? You could even pick a county, look to like Rusk County. We've got Bruce, great school. Ladysmith is a great school. Tony is a great school. Do we need 3 superintendents within a half an hour drive of each other? Could one superintendent oversee? Now, I'm sure the superintendents of those 3 districts will try to skin me alive, but do we need 3 superintendents over 3 districts that are declining enrollment?
But to be clear, the legislature is not telling them,
no.
Do you guys really need all this? It sounds like what this is, again, is just in the event. Here's what I'm assuming is going to happen. If this all comes to fruition, most schools aren't going to do this. But there's going to be some schools that I think strongly are going to consider it. Whether they end up doing it or not, I don't know. But I think it's going to start that conversation. And if they look at this and go, you know what, actually, so maybe there'll only be 2 or 3 or 4 situations where somebody does. Maybe there'll be more. I don't know. But again, kind of going back to some of the other things, it's the little things, but it's helping, right? So if schools are like, yeah, we would totally do that, except X, Y, and Z. But if you can solve the X, Y, and the Z, and that'd be great. Now, my guess is Democrats are going to be against this, and I'm not trying to say that's right or wrong, but if there's pushback, it's going to be, it's going to be that it's going to go back to the same talking point where you just be funding more schools, not closing them. When that's my guess is that politically that's how it's going to sound, but you're not closing them. It's just if some areas want to do this, we're going to help you out financially to be able to get this done, because I think we'll still end up helping out the bigger picture anyway.
Well, as an example, the state of Florida, they have countywide school districts. Now, you still have communities with schools, but your administration is at a higher level, right? So, I mean, it's a conversation, especially the biggest thing, Ben, that's driving this is demographics. So, I mean, even in Rice Lake, they're not growing, but 10, 20 years ago, there was 50 to 100 kids more per class going through there.
We've lost 50,000 students in the last decade in public
Yep.
education. I saw that on WPR this morning.
And we have the same amount of facilities with 50,000 kids less in them. And so it's a continual struggle, right? How do I stay open when my revenues are declining? So we can keep giving more per student, but when you have less students, think of how much more I have to plow in per pupil just to cover one kid's absence. Now, let's say you lose 10% of your kids over. So I might give you $300 a kid, but you just lost 13 grand in one kid. So, and we're continuing this decline. So we got to have these conversations. We're not trying to force them. But there's a lot of school boards that are like, man, we know we got to talk about this, but how do I vote to spend my own money to close myself?
Yeah.
To do a study, right? So we offered incentives to even pay for the study. If two districts want to come together and talk about it, could the state pay for the study? Because how do you tell a school board member, like, we're out of cash, but here's 25 grand to go do a study whether or not we should close? Well, no one's going to do that, right? And it's already a tough conversation to have. So how do we help you facilitate that conversation if it needs to happen?
Annette says Minnesota has one school district per county. Really?
I think if you look at the numbers, Minnesota has like 80 less school districts roughly than Wisconsin, and we have almost the same exact amount of kids. So again,
Really?
Less administration, more money in the classroom, for overhead. But at the same time, we have to stop a lot of these mandates, which require so much administration. I mean, superintendents have to wear a lot of hats because there's so many mandates in education as well, right? A lot of them, probably well-intentioned, but we need to stop requiring so much administration because it's not going into the classroom.
Yeah. Brian says the Republican push for privatization of schools using our tax dollars is killing our public schools. What is your thought on that? I mean, this is a talking point has been for a very, very long time. I know you've discussed it before. I'm assuming your opinion hasn't changed on that, but how do you respond to that?
No.
Yeah.
Families should choose the best educational option regardless of their ability to pay. And so there's a lot of issues that drive parents to choose different educational settings. And remember, this program is only for people of modest income. Like a family of four can't make they have to make less than like 60 grand a year to even qualify for a school choice voucher. And so we're not talking about funding the elites and paying for rich people to send their kid to an elite school. It's allowing families access to the same schools that rich people get to go to if they think that's the best setting. So what I would ask is, why are we not looking at the reasons why a family would choose to leave a public school to even go to a private school?
If there was a private school available, that's where we would send our kids, and it's not a knock on the area school districts. We just absolutely would. Actually, Raleigh. Well, right now, Jerusha and Kenneth and Raleigh, they actually are driving to the Twin Cities as we speak for the Raleigh's second tour of a private college. We're not going to send them to, and it's going to cost us a lot more.
Sure.
But we want them to go to a Christian college, and actually that's what Raleigh wants to do. So it's not really necessarily what we would want. That's where Raleigh. So I think she's touring Bethel today. She already did Northwestern over in the Twin Cities because we don't seem to have a lot of those in Wisconsin, which I'm not really sure why we don't have a lot of Christian colleges in Wisconsin. Minnesota seems to have a whole bunch of them, which you'd think, and it doesn't seem to make sense. But
that's like saying you shouldn't get any public scholarships if you go to a private college. Like,
that's stupid. And thankfully, right. Raleigh has like a 4.2 GPA, so like half of her tuition, which is stupid expensive for these things, but like at least half of it's going to get paid for because of her scholarships because she's doing a really, really good job.
And I would argue a lot of these schools, they're feeders into the public school. Like you take a look at Rice Lake. St. Joe's, I believe, is an attraction for families that want an alternative. Yeah. And when they graduate from 8th grade, where do they go? The public high school.
Right.
It's a feeder into another arm of a public institution. So I've never bought that argument.
Yeah. We're already hit our time, but I got to quickly ask you, we had our good friend Timothy Fry from Ignite Dispensary. I know you know him well. He was on our show on Tuesday.
Yeah, I wanted to watch it. I haven't watched it yet.
It was really, he was, no kidding. That was really good when he was on. Wealth of information as usual. Where are any bills right now regarding hemp cannabis?
So a new bill just dropped this week. Senator Pat Testin introduced one, which I think gets at what the industry wants in terms of regulation and doesn't do what they don't want. So restrictions on age, have to be 21 or older.
Yep.
Restrictions on potency, just like regulate alcohol. We can't have 20% cans of beer floating around. It's got to have a regulation of potency. So I think it's getting kind of where everyone wants to be, maybe not other industries or other interests. And so I'm sure it'll be a fight, just like the last bill was a fight, trying to regulate things like alcohol. But that's why I wanted to watch Tim's show too. I remember touring his facility and I learned so much that time. I mean, I'm the most ignorant millennial.
Me too.
On some
I
stuff,
don't
right?
know anything about it.
So,
I have nothing.
I'm just not in that realm. I'd rather have an old fashioned. But for those people that, it's medicinal in nature and other things, man, we just got to find that middle ground. And so I think Pat's bill kind of threads that needle, and we'll see. Now we get to have a public hearing. Now we get to have that debate on which bill is better, which isn't. So, which is a good thing. We need to have this discussion.
Well, I got to tell you, it looks like Duke Tucker also, Representative, I'm set to tour Tim's operation on Tuesday. Good. Like, no kidding.
Yeah.
It's not just because I've known him for over 3 decades and he's a friend. I mean, that dude is above board, and he is as close to an expert in this. Actually, I would say he's the only expert that I would listen to on this topic. And by the way, after the show, I ended up going down because I don't know anything about this stuff. I don't know what gummies and milligrams of this and all those THC drink and stuff. And I went down there and I'm like, all right, hook me up with some stuff. Like, let me just try a few things. So haven't tried those yet, but that'll be interesting.
I think you should try them, and then we should do a show. We'll just see how it goes.
Oh, man. It's going to be... I'm waiting to the weekend because I don't want to do it in the work week. And he's like, no, and not all of these things kind of have that effect on you.
I know. And that's a misnomer too, right?
Which
so
I have discovered. It's like, this one is great for great for sleep. Doesn't have any kind of effect. Doesn't make you feel any differently. It just it really helps with sleep. And then I ended up talking to a few people after that show and said, I actually do the ones just for sleep, and there's no a psychedelic aspect to it at all. Sure. So I said, have some of those, but also ones that do. Let's the ones that. I kind of want to try that actually. And it's as long as it's legal. And he said, it is. So,
right.
Yeah, if you start getting weird texts from me on Saturday, you'll know why.
Well, don't do that, because they'll be in the deer stand, which, it's the beginning of Wisconsin's second Holy Week. So good luck to all the deer stands out there.
Second Holy
weekend. Yeah.
All right. Well, all right, man. I appreciate it. Next month. So you come on the last Thursday. Hold on. Where's my calendar? November, December. We're not doing a show on Christmas Day. But it is my birthday, though. So you could come on and say happy birthday.
Ooh, there we go.
Yes, we'll probably have to do it.
Dummies. Birthday party.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, so we'll probably do it the week before, like we're doing right now. So it'll probably be the third Thursday of the month. Check your calendar, make sure that it'll work. Other than that... when you go hunting, is my understanding, because I'm not a hunter, it's about tradition, and we go to the same place with the same people. Is that you, or like every year I do something different?
Nope. We go up north. My grandpa's had a little 19-acre plot of land for 50 some years, and so my brother's on his way up right now from Indiana, and we go up there and we hang out. And it's not just about shooting deer. Obviously, that part is important, and we have to justify that to our wives while we're gone. So if you come back without a deer, it's like, well, what were you doing? So, no, it's a good time, and it's fun to see everyone. A lot of the same families we've been seeing for years and years since I was a kid, and that's the fun part. So when I ran for Senate, I'm like, this seat's perfect. Deer camp is in my Senate seat. I know everyone up there. I know the bar owners. It's great, and of course, now that gets ripped out from under me, which is kind of sad. I'm going to miss all those guys because I'm like sitting there, we're talking about deer, and I'm like, oh yeah, and I'm your state senator. What do you think about this? So, but it's a great time up north. Just a special time.
It's weird you say up north. Like a lot of people that down in Madison think that you're already up north. Like, how much further north you got to go?
Yeah, I think the Dells is up north. Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. All right, man. Thanks so much. We'll see you next month, huh?
Yep. Thanks for having me on.
Special thank you to Wisconsin's 25th District Senator Romaine Quinn for taking the time to come on for a chat today. Thank all of you for your comments and your questions. I'll see you right back here next Tuesday at 8:30 a.m., November 25th, when I'll be joined by Paul Waskren. Paul, of course, is one of the 3 Republican candidates to announce their campaign for Wisconsin's 7th congressional district. This, of course, after Tom Tiffany, who's the current representative, announced his campaign for governor. So until then, for DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden saying thank you for watching, and as always, have a blessed day.